The Vietnam War started with the Tonkin Gulf Resolution in August 1964. Most Americans were in agreement with the decision to fight in Vietnam made by President Lyndon B. Johnson at first, but later many people were against the war because of the draft. This angered people because the wealth did not have to abide by a draft. Only the poor went to Vietnam. There were also many different types of chemical weapons, like Agent Orange and napalm, that still to this day have lasting effects on the people and the environment in Vietnam. Some of these effects were mutations at childbirth and food contamination. Since this war was long and a lot of troops were only serving a year at a time, when they returned home for the end of the war, these veterans' opinions of the war helped fuel the anti-Vietnam War movement. Many different songs against the war in Vietnam are used to voice the opinions of these veterans, American citizens, and most importantly, the song artists themselves. One popular song from 1969 Woodstock Festival, Feeling Like I'm Fixed to Die by Country Joe McDonald, was a sarcastic song about the war. This song was written during the height of the war and criticized and strongly disagreed with the decisions made by LBJ and the US government. Even though it was seen as a sort of sarcastic song, the lyrics backed up Country Joe McDonald's opinion against the war and problems that come with it, from how it hurts the economy and losses of life for many young men in the service. The writer of the song, Joe McDonald, served in the U.S. Navy and was discharged before the writing of this song. He used the lyrics of this song to point out some controversial topics of the time, the biggest one being the draft. McDonald used jokes throughout the song to make fun of American and the politicians. In the second line of the first stanza, McDonald says, Uncle Sam's gonna need your help again. This is a completely false statement about Vietnam because there was a draft in place that forced anyone who received a draft card to go over and fight in Vietnam. In the last two lines of the stanza, McDonald, in quote, wrote, down your books and pick up a gun. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun. I interpret this as McDonald saying that the students are put down their school books to use guns in Vietnam. The third stanza, McDonald writes, Open up the pearly gates, referring to heaven's gates, and ain't no time to wonder why. Whoopee, we're all gonna die. McDonald is wondering, what are we fighting for? If there isn't time to wonder why, or be told why we're fighting in Vietnam. The second wartime song is Hit, Master of War by Bob Dylan, who expresses his feelings about the people who simply provide financial assistance in times of war, but never risk their own life because they have the money to give up the draft duty. Here's a small piece of the song that I feel expresses the way he feels about the war extremely well.
Not only is this how Bob Dylan felt about the war, but this is how many Americans felt about the war. It explains how the wealthy never had to deal with the death that the poor did. They could simply sit back in their mansions thousands of miles away from the front lines and watch as fellow Americans died, and because they were providing the weapons to fight in the war, they didn't feel that least bit of guilt. The title of the song, Master of War, and what Bob Dylan means when he talks about the Master of War, is they are the ones who control the war for a profit and and a personal gain. For example, the government and the factories and big companies making guns are making money. Bob Dylan was an icon during the Vietnam protest, putting his message out there, much like MLK during the civil rights movement. He not only put out the song, but several other anti war songs, such as The Times They Are in Change, and several others. Because of this, many people took what he said very seriously and marched to many of Bob Dylan's songs over the course of the Vietnam War. Although the songs and Feeling Like I'm Fixed to Die were both anti war songs, they were very different in their approach in Master of War. The words are very clear. They speak of discrimination against some that have to fight more than others. Where in Feeling Like I'm Fixed to Die, it is a more comical approach about a serious matter in an attempt to spread his message in a lighter way. Both of these songs show two sides of the feelings of the Vietnam protesters extremely well and should be looked at as speeches that influence all of America. The music of the war united the people that had the same opinions and made it more public that they did not agree with the government's decision on staying in Vietnam.